The final topic in this unit is about noise pollution. So we sometimes don't think about noise as a type of pollution, but it is, and it can have impacts on organisms and ecosystems, and certainly on human health. But noise pollution is the term we use when there are sound levels that are loud enough, that are high enough, that can cause physiological stress or hearing loss or impact organisms as well. So sound pollution comes about by lots of different reasons, transportation, vehicles, construction, industrial activity. Also, even things like wind turbines do generate quite a lot of noise pollution in the immediate area. So though that noise pollution can affect animals, it can affect migration routes of organisms. It can interfere with how animals communicate with each other, how they hunt as well. And so all of these impacts can be felt by organisms and impact ecosystems. Can also impact human health, certainly, that if you have an iPhone, you may know you get alerts sometimes that the audio level is too loud. And that's because loud sounds can damage hearing, especially under repeated or extended exposure. So this diagram at the bottom shows sort of different examples comparing the noises. So if you were looking at in the subway, for example, which is pretty loud, we're looking at a noise level of about 90 to 95 decibels. Sounds above 85 decibels are considered harmful, and the longer the exposure, the more harmful. So you can see mechanical equipment like chainsaws and leaf blowers are up here in the 110 range, or gunshots or sports crowd concerts can be 120, 130 even. So the level of noise is important. There's also noise pollution that is important in aquatic ecosystems. So there are a lot of vessels, fishing equipment, which use subsonic, low-frequency sound waves to get a picture of schools of fish for fishing vessels and so forth. And those low-frequency sonar sounds can actually affect the communication of animals in the water, especially things like whales, which communicate using subsonic communication. Those can impact the communication between these organisms. So that's another impact that sound can have. And finally, light pollution is, it's not part of the course, but I just throw it in here because I'm concerned about it sometimes. But light pollution is a term maybe you haven't heard of, but this is the excessive or inappropriate use of artificial light. And we know that we have street lights and headlights and all sorts of things like that, but that light pollution can impact aesthetics, that if you have a lot of light pollution, it makes the night sky much more difficult to see stars and galaxies and so forth. It can affect wildlife and interfere with sort of the diurnal day-night cycles of those species. And we can actually do a pretty good job of impacting and reducing light pollution by using different types of light fixtures. Here's an example of different types of street lights, basically. So you could just have an open light street light, which emits light and makes it so that people can see. There are other than modifications to these lights that can help reduce the amount of light pollution. By putting just an opaque cap on those lights, we reduce the amount of light that's going up into the atmosphere, up into the sky, and still utilize the light for what its purpose is. And different examples here, as we reduce the amount of light going in the atmosphere, we can improve upon this. And here we see some examples of what it looks like. And you probably have noticed this if you've ever gone camping or into more rural areas or more remote areas. The farther away you get from these artificial lights, the more you can see at night in the sky. This is an interesting image here. This is a picture of basically the same exact place during the 2003 Northeast blackout. In 2003, there was an enormous blackout that affected much of the northeast of the United States. And so this is a picture of the night sky during normal times, and we can see, you could sort of see some stars there, but not a ton. There's a lot of light pollution here. But during that time when there was the blackout, you can see what a difference there is. You can see the Milky Way, you can see so many more stars. So there are impacts that light pollution can have on aesthetics as well as other things.